Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a special episode, man. Really, for all you Xbox out there, congratulations. You finally did it. Microsoft acquires a huge Sony exclusive and a Nintendo exclusive up to this point. They have now just exploded all of my of my expectations of what Microsoft could possibly do. Now, you might be thinking, I'm talking about a video game. What great Microsoft exclusive? What exclusive could Microsoft have taken away from both Sony and Nintendo? Your mind will be blown. Well, last week Sony did us all the great favor of announcing a price hike for the PlayStation 5. And Nintendo introduced the $80 video game base price point. Well, Microsoft, not to be undone, has done exactly the same thing, but double. Let's take a look here at an article from Kotaku. Well, look at that. Microsoft announces massive Xbox console price hike. Xbox games to cost $80. Look at that. Double exclusives. They took Nintendo's $80 exclusive games and PlayStation's exclusive price hike in their consoles, and they said, you know what? We could do one better. We could do both. We could do both. We're nearly 5 years. We're nearly 5 years into this current generation. And usually around this point, you would see price drops for hardware because hardware over a period of time actually becomes less expensive to make. And traditionally, console manufacturers would pass those savings on to the consumer by doing a price drop. That's no longer the case. Now, many of you are probably going to go, oh, well, there's these tariffs that have been put in place. Well, that might be the case. But even if the tariffs were put in place, I still go back to what I just finished saying. Consoles traditionally, hardware traditionally, gets less expensive over time. So really, they could have said, well, we normally would have dropped the price and passed that on to the consumer, but with these tariffs, we're going to have to keep the price the same. That would make sense. That would make sense. But no. Let's read this article here. Let's see what the good old boys at Kotaku have to say. Microsoft announces massive Xbox console price hike. Xbox games to cost $80. Microsoft has announced it will be raising the prices of all Xbox consoles, accessories, and games, and the increases are huge. Console and peripheral prices will go up today, May 1st, so 2 days ago, by an enormous amount, while new first-party game prices will hit $80 by the holiday. The cost of an Xbox Series S 512 will change today from $299 to $379 for the digital shitty version of the Xbox. A whopping 27% increase. Mind you, tariffs, let's say in Vietnam, are around 10%. So a lot of these manufacturings, even if they're not done directly in China, let's say they're done in Indonesia, Taiwan, or Vietnam, it wouldn't be a 27% price increase. But let's go on. Meanwhile, an Xbox Series X will leap from $499 to $599.99. A 20% bump on a third place console that nobody already doesn't buy. The more recent Xbox Series X 2 terabyte Galaxy, the 2 terabyte, has shot up 21%. So the numbers are all over the place. To $730, making it more expensive than a PS5 Pro. There's an asterisk there. More expensive than PS5 Pro digital. If you add the $80 accessory that Sony charges, the PS5 Pro still costs more because the Series X 2 terabyte does come with a disk drive. When it comes to accessories, we're looking at a bog standard Xbox controller going up from $60 to $65, while the Series 2 Elite controller jumps from $130 to $150. For everybody out there bitching that the Switch's Pro Controller 2 is $84.99, $150 for the Series 2 Elite. Microsoft has not given a reason for the price increase, but it's impossible not to assume that they are in least part connected to the tariffs. While prices for Xbox consoles and accessories are increases all around the world, the difference is far greater in the US. For instance, in the UK, the Series X is increasing from £480 to £500, only a 4% rise compared to 20%. There shouldn't be any rise. Consoles hardware becomes cheaper to make over a period of time, period. They always have. And manufacturers might be taking a hit, but there's no way they're taking a 30% hit. The Series S is changing significantly more, going up 20% from £250 to £300. But that's still a smaller change in the United States. Not by much. They're still screwing the UK for no reason. A 20% bump. For what? But you notice how in this article they say it's connected to Trump's tariffs. What's the reason in the UK? Trump's tariffs aren't hitting the UK. What's going on, Microsoft? We've reached out to Microsoft to ask how tariffs have affected this. We all know Kotaku is a left-leaning DEI smooching organization at this point. They turned off all the comments on their articles. You can't even comment and you can't leave an opinion anymore because, Kotaku can't handle people with different opinions. But needless to say, let's continue. We've reached out to ask how the tariffs have affected this. These all new prices announced today, the Series S, X, S1, terabyte, blah, blah, blah. And here are the new accessory prices. The wireless controller core, $64.99, all the way up to Xbox wireless headsets, going to be $64.99, and then for the stereo, and then $119.99 for the wireless. That is crazy bonkers. And look at this, Xbox Elite Series wireless controller Series 2, the full version is $199. Is Microsoft out of their freaking minds? This is all designed, and let me tell you, they might be using tariffs as an excuse, even though they have not said it is because of tariffs. They have not said that. Anything that Kotaku is saying here, and anybody's like, well, yeah, the tariffs. Of course, it's somewhat there. Of course, it has something to do with it, but they're using that as an excuse. And you want to hear my humble opinion? It is to price out everyone. Sony wants to price out everyone out of buying consoles that have discs in them, and Microsoft is trying to price everyone out for the same thing. Why? Because they want you to get digital only access to your games, digital only on their storefronts. They want to be Steam. They want to have no hardware attached to this, and if it is hardware, it's going to be digital. And what do they want to do? Make it so expensive that now you're going to have to buy Game Pass, which is still a great deal up to this point. But even that saw an increase last year before the tariffs. Speaking to IGN, Microsoft told the site, we understand that these changes are challenging and they were made with careful consideration given market conditions and the rise of cost development. The rise of cost development of what? Your R&D already happened for this system. Prices for current games aren't changing. Current games. But Microsoft has announced that by this holiday, get ready, boys, we can expect all first-party games to cost $80. Why? Nintendo, I can see them doing it. They clearly are marking it as a new generation. Now, when Nintendo did this crap and matched everybody mid-cycle with Tears of the Kingdom, clocking in at $69.99 just to match the industry, everybody cried about it. Well, Microsoft won up them because they just moved their shit from $70 up to $80 mid-cycle for no reason. They're not developing these games in China. That means this holiday's Call of Duty will likely be an $80 game. It seems only a matter of time before Sony declares it will be doing the same for the PS5. 100%. That's going to happen. 100%. And third-party developers are going to do this shit too. There's no way GTA 6 comes out for now. We know for sure now the base one is going to be $80 at least. So the future of a $100 version of GTA became a lot more realistic in my eyes now. There's no longer a $30 price gap. It's only $20 now. It's only $20 now. So in previous videos where I said, no, there's probably going to be a $100 version of the game. Well, that was back when we had $69.99 as the base price for most games. But that's changed. That's changed. Let's continue. Alongside just about everything else you were looking forward to. Of course, this slightly softened by their inclusion in Game Pass, although that too has gotten more expensive since last year. And of course, with Game Pass, you don't even notionally own the games. Sony recently announced further price increases on its own consoles in various parts of the world last month, and with high prices for the Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo Switch 2 looks like a bargain now at $450. It's a bargain next to a Series X for $730 and a PS5 Pro for nearly $800. Video gaming is becoming an extraordinarily expensive hobby. I'm of two minds of this because I'm old enough to remember that video games have always been an expensive hobby, and we got used to it being an accessible, cheap hobby, I would say during the Wii era, where things kind of just stabilized. We had the $50 game price since, GameCube days, and it stayed like that for like 20 years almost. But in the 90s, Super Nintendo games, it wasn't beyond a reasonable thought to go to Toys R Us and pick up an $80 Super Nintendo game. I bought WWF No Mercy in 1998 for $80 at a local Kmart. And adjusting for inflation, that's $155 in today's money for one game in 1998. So gaming's always been a very expensive luxury hobby. It's only recently that people kind of got used to it becoming affordable. And of course, that's when the industry exploded. But something like this resets to something that many were screaming a year and a half ago. And that is that very possibly there is a video game crash coming. And there's only going to be a couple of players that stick into this game. Sony and Microsoft are both 1,000% soulless companies when it comes to video games. They are in it for the bottom line. They don't care about the craft. Anybody that wants to argue with me, I will ask you, where has there been? Watch the last video. When was the last first-party exclusive for a PlayStation game? That was September of 2024, and today's recording date is May 3rd, 2025. They're not in it because of the love of the craft. Sony is an entertainment company, and they're there for their stockholders. They all are. Don't get me wrong, even Nintendo. But Nintendo's been exclusively making games, and it seems like they've had more passion and heart for games and toys, well, for the last 100 years. More than 100 years. Microsoft, congratulations. Xbox fanboys, justify this. Remember when I posted the last video and everybody was so happy that I was crapping on Sony again because Sony price hiked their PS5 in 20 countries and their PlayStation Plus in 20 countries, and that was the only exclusive they had. That's what I said. Sony's exclusive for the last year has been making their consoles more expensive. Well, congratulations, Microsoft. You stole the exclusive from Sony and Nintendo. You're number one. let me know what you guys think in the comments. Leave a like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.